And there's a number of healthy Christian colleges out there. So then it's finding the one that's a good fit. It's finding one that fits into not just their degree program, but also who they are. Sometimes, it's a bigger school. Sometimes it's a smaller school. And I think that can be, helpful for a parent to think through those dynamics when it comes to looking for a school.
Sell us on Joplin, Missouri. What a quaint little big town.
When you're in a place like this, Joplin is one of those towns where you go, where is that again? And I felt that way driving there from Colorado. Where is it that I'm going and driving down, Main Street? So driving down Main Street, how have I arrived here? One of the weird things about Ozark is that it is a ministry hub. There are a number of global organizations that are housed there. So Christ in Youth and Good News Productions and Rafa House and Black Box, several of those organizations started in connection to Ozark and some of the entrepreneurial spirit there. And so when it comes to students getting involved in those kinds of global ministries, it is kind of just this weird little, hub. You mentioned.
Hey, welcome to Simple Faith. Today we have an opportunity to hear from a new friend to the podcast, but somebody that I think will benefit you in many different ways. And so here's the people we want to talk to today. If you have a teenager getting ready to go to college, if you are a teenager getting ready to go to college, if you are far along in your life and you think, I wish I had gone to some kind of Bible college, Christian college, I want to learn more, we're going to have a conversation with a guy from Ozark Christian College, which offers both undergraduate degrees and graduate degrees and has online learning experiences for people of all ages, no matter where you live and what season of life you are in. Today, Jim Dalrymple is going to make Christian college / Bible college simple for us. So here we go, my conversation with Jim. Jim Dalrymple, thank you so much for being with us. Explain to us your last name.
Yeah, so Dalrymple is actually a place in Scotland.
Well, of course it is.
And it means land by the Crooked River. It's a clan, and our family came over to the United States in the 1700s. So, yeah, Dalrymple. It's a hard name to say.
So you're not wearing the kilt anymore or anything?
No. The last church I was at, though, they played bagpipes as I left. I didn't know what to feel about that. I felt like it was maybe my funeral, but they played bagpipes to celebrate me stepping away from that role.
Very, Payne Stewart kind of feel.
Yeah.
All right. So for our people that don't know who you are, you work at Ozark Christian College now. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so I came to Ozark from Colorado. I wanted to go into ministry. Didn't really know what area. So I started in children's ministry and college-age ministry. Basically everything the youth minister didn't want to do that he was responsible for, and I bracketed his ministry. Then I moved into a youth ministry for 6 months up in Illinois, moving up there to do my master's degree. Quickly became the preaching minister because the senior minister there was fired. And so 6 months of ministry, major transition, moved as a 24-year-old into the preaching ministry role, and then did that for about 10 years. So transitioned 2013 to Ozark Christian College to teach students about ministry. So I teach Timothy and Titus, Life of Christ, practical ministry at Ozark, and I've been doing that for the last 13 years. That's one half of that job. The other half of my job there is to really lead in church partnerships and help churches and Ozark partner together for the future. A lot of Bible colleges kind of are doing the same model they did back in the 80s and 90s. And one of the things we've wanted to do is how do we serve the church today and even going forward? Right. So that's part of my job, is staying in connection with them and where ministry is going and how we can best equip students for that.
That's great. Yeah. From Colorado, what part of Colorado?
So originally Fort Morgan, not the glamorous part of Colorado. The part when you drive into Colorado, you're thinking, are we there yet?
This is still Western Kansas.
But then I moved to Castle Rock.
Goodness.
When I was a high school kid.
Beautiful. Yeah. Okay. I've always wondered, and I'm a huge fan of Ozark. Obviously, I went there, met my wife there. Our kids have gone there. Love the school. I've always wondered about professors that they come in with, I was just in the trenches, coming right off the battlefield.
Yeah, it's good.
And then after about 4 or 5 years, those stories no longer really relate because they've been off the field for so long. How does a person, and mainly how do you as the college make sure that
the kids are getting fresh intel.
Man, that's so good. Because I remember coming in out of 15 years of ministry, and I wrote down in a journal before I ever started teaching, what would I want me to know?
Yeah.
Right. So it was all very fresh. All those stories were fresh. I think a couple of different things we're trying to do. One is hiring professors who don't just have the degrees, but have ministry experience. And we try to have a new batch of young professors come in about every 5 to 7 years. So we actually just had 3 new professors come in with ministry experience. They provide those fresh stories. The other thing that I see us doing is maintaining professors who stay in the church. So I'm an elder at our church, been there for 5 years. It's not the same as my role as a preaching minister, but I still have a perspective where I'm able to teach students and say ministry and church is like this. These are some real stories happening, this year. And so it's kind of a both and in that.
Yep.
And I think the culture of Ozark is we want communicators and we want church professors. We want them to be connected and not just authors or not just, writing journal articles. Not that those things are bad, but can we have someone who's able to bridge that gap between the academic world and the church world and do it really well?
Practical ministry class.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorites.
Okay.
And I learned valuable skills about like how to baptize somebody.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of an art to it.
It's changed a bit since then. I promise you, it's changed a bit sinse then. Yeah.
What do you require kids to read nowadays?
Yeah. So a couple of different books. Man, I'm trying to think of revamping what I would have them read. So there's a book right now called Celebrities for Jesus. That's how personas, platforms, and prophets are hurting the church.
Okay.
And it's kind of just it's a mirror that asks some questions about our motivations. So that would be one of them. Probably trying to think of the others. There would be some of Patrick Lencioni's work. They may not be a church book, but definitely like core leadership. So on establishing church culture, like what you did this morning in your staff meeting, that'd be a bit of what we'd walk through. I actually have them read through the New Testament just to notice that dysfunction and conflict is normal.
It is normal.
and realize that when you get out into ministry, that's going to be normal as well.
Right.
And so, it's a cheesy answer to say I have them read the Bible.
Yeah.
But reading it through a lens to see what they're going to see is one of the things we try to do as well.
Yeah, it's funny you say the Bible's a textbook. One of the biggest problems I think every student at Ozark deals with. It's interesting you say that every, class, the Bible's a textbook. One of the greatest problems I've always seen being a student at Ozark was when the Bible did become a textbook.
Yeah, it's true.
And no longer this life-giving communication with God.
Yeah.
I know that's a constant thing that you guys wrestle with the students.
Yeah.
How do you find that you help students make it more than a textbook?
No, it's good. I think, for me as a professor, I can't speak for all of them, it's finding a way to tap into an assignment where it doesn't feel like busy work. But it's transformative and it's also relevant for what they're going to do and who they're going to become. Sometimes assignments, even memory work.
Yeah.
If you're not careful, you can have an assignment that's just a checklist, memorize this verse.
Correct.
So getting to the why, getting to the, why do we have this assignment? I mentioned reading through the Bible, looking for conflict.
Right.
It's not just so I can do a 3-page paper.
Right.
It's so that you can prepare your heart and mind for what's coming next.
Right.
I will say, at times, in a brick room or in a room, drywall room, there is a disconnect. Sometimes they don't know what they don't know yet. And so I've had a number of students call me back and say, when we talked about handling criticism or facing failure, I remember hearing you, but I didn't hear you.
Yep.
And so that's where we're trying to create some loops for conversations to where students can loop back and have some of those conversations once they are in leadership to go, I know I learned that concept, but I didn't know how much it was a survival skill.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that I've always loved about my experience at Ozark is that I still maintain friendships and relationships with those professors.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Some of them I text regularly. One of them, J.K. Jones, he and I are going to teach a course together at this event in Missouri next year. I love these people who have poured into my life, and you can continue the relationship. And part of that is because the class sizes are a little bit smaller than maybe at a different college. So for our parents out there that are wondering, is it a waste to send my kid to a Christian college because that's not what they're going to do with their life?
I understand. Yeah.
Give them the sales pitch. Why should they tell their kids go at least 1 year?
Yeah, man, I think college is a transformational, pivotal time. My daughter's a senior, just graduated this weekend. And, I've been praying for her entire life to be surrounded by healthy friends, healthy teachers, healthy mentors. Why would I stop that at college? Why would I think that needs to stop there? And so investing in not just the curriculum, but the culture and the community, I think is pivotal. And there's a number of healthy Christian colleges out there. So then it's finding the one that's a good fit, is finding one that fits into not just their degree program, but also who they are. Sometimes, it's a bigger school, sometimes it's a smaller school. And I think that can be, helpful for a parent to think through those dynamics when it comes to looking for a school.
And Ozark is accredited, so a lot of those things can transfer. I know in the situation for my oldest daughter, she went there and then ended up taking classes at Missouri Southern, which is a university just down the street, and she got a dual degree. It's a really great opportunity. And sell us on Joplin, Missouri. What a quaint little big town.
When you're in a place like this, Joplin is one of those towns where you go, where is that again? And I felt that way driving there from Colorado. Where is it that I'm going and driving down, Main Street? So driving down Main Street, how have I arrived here? One of the weird things about Ozark is that it is a ministry hub. There are a number of global organizations that are housed there. So Christ in Youth and Good News Productions and Rafa House and Black Box, several of those organizations started in connection to Ozark and some of the entrepreneurial spirit there. And so when it comes to students getting involved in those kinds of global ministries, it is kind of just this weird little, hub. You mentioned it, Mecca. It's this weird little hub of ministry that then is allowed to send them out. Right. And so our goal is not to keep them in Joplin. Our goal is to train them there and send them out. Yeah.
I've always laughed at the notion of graduating from Ozark and then wanting to plant a church there in Joplin, as if there's not enough. And goodness, you want to stay here. That's great. That speaks to the charm of the town and certainly the incredible coffee shops. There's a lot of those.
Well, it's a great place to raise kids.
It
not
is.
Not going to lie. The church that we're a part of, it's an answer to prayer. That my kids were mentored by some of the people there and like this church here, had the opportunity to be discipled by incredible people.
Okay. So for every teen out there that their parent's going to share this podcast with them and say, listen to this and I'll pay you $10. Give them the sales pitch, why they should even go there, rather than taking a gap year or going to a VOTEC school or even going directly to a state college.
Yeah, I think a couple of different reasons. Number one, if you're looking at going into ministry, that's what we do. Yeah, it's the VOTEC, it's the trade school, for ministry. So if you're looking at doing that, I think Ozark is the premier place to go. If you're not looking at going into ministry, it still gives you that healthy community with all of the options. And so check it out. Come to one of our Tuesday tours. There's also a new resource for high school students we're putting out this summer with all the camps and CIY Move that's going to be called Sent. It's a video 6-week lesson series for high school students thinking about vocational ministry. And it's speakers like Lane Moss at CIY, our academic dean, Chad Ragsdale, Michael Bettefazio, and myself. And all we're doing is walking through, how does God call people? How do you discern his call? What is ministry and what does it look like to be in ministry, either full-time vocationally or part-time as a volunteer? How do I figure out my fit in that? And so that's a resource. If I'm, a parent of a high schooler or a high schooler, I might actually invest some time, an hour a week or so in that, just kind of searching and exploring. And that'll also introduce them to some of those voices of teachers that they would study under.
Yeah, I would highly recommend the Tuesday tour. It gives you I think $1,000 off your tuition, but it's also a great way to kind of get a feel for what this campus is like and all of that. Okay. There's a lot of people that are listening that are like, they're leaders in their church. They have a 9-to-5, they work 60 hours a week, but man, they really want to know more about the Bible. They want to learn more. They wish they could have gone to Bible college, but they never had the opportunity. And I know Ozark has done a lot to try to reach them as well.
We really want to do Bible training or ministry training for individuals at every level. And so one of the things that I wanted the college to do when I came back 13 years ago was provide training for churches outside of the 4 states region and do that through digital resources. So one of the things we launched a number of years ago with a team of people is a resource called Next Level. And they're just free video Bible resources that are available. And there's hundreds of them out there now. I think on Right Now Media had 2 million views over the last couple of years. And so it's a resource where it's just, I want to walk through a book of the Bible. Okay, that resource is probably there. And it's either on our website, on YouTube, or on Right Now Media. There's a few other platforms out there available. And so we've just invested in that, saying, hey, we want to serve the church through this free video resource. A lot of people listen to them on their commute. And it's just voice you can trust. There's a lot of resources out there that are free, but it's a voice you can trust. And it's intentionally just walking through books of the Bible, walking through biblical concepts. I did one on the Lord's Prayer, just talking about, praying the Lord's Prayer and using it as a compass as you navigate life. And so the goal is just to be helpful to the average leader, the average person who's a parent, and give them something that's accessible.
Our small group actually did your teaching on First Peter.
Yeah, you made fun of my hair. I remember that.
It was awesome.
I didn't forget that, by the way.
No. I actually asked my kids if I could get that haircut, and they said, no, that was too many years ago.
It was a few years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned something before we actually hit record, and maybe we were recording, I'm not sure. But you talked about being an elder in your local church. And I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast are part of local churches. They might even be elders. We have a lot of church planners on here trying to set up eldership. Good. It's a very unique way, and it shouldn't be unique, but it's a unique way you deal with transitioning on and off the eldership board. Yeah. Because typically there's 2 ways to do eldership in a church. One is you're on forever. Yeah. Or 2, you rotate off every X number of years, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. You guys have a 3rd way. Walk us through what that looks like.
Yeah, we have a model that is based on kind of the church being a household or the family. Now, we're a large church. We're church over 3,000. We have this idea that the elders are in the original church, the fathers or a fatherly figure in the church, and you don't get to step away from that. So you're kind of one for life. And we recognize that there are times where people might need to step away from the official capacity of being an elder, or, for one reason or the other. Either they're tired and they need a break, or there's a character compromise, and so they need to take a break. So we have this model that is highly communicative in the sense where when we see that someone needs to take a break, we want to be upfront and communicate that to them. Or they also then have opportunities to say, now's a good time for me to step away, maybe for a season, maybe indefinitely from that particular role. And so in that sense, what we do try to prevent is a lack of health. I recognize there might be, downsides to this as well, but a lack of health that sometimes comes with waiting for that person to come off term, right? 3 years later, you might know a year in, this is not going well. And this person is not leading with the same culture or in the same direction that we need to. So it forces us to have some of those harder conversations or an older elder so that we can bring in someone new and train them up. How do you have that conversation that says, hey, we're ready for you to make this transition, but let's have an honest conversation about that.
Have those always gone well?
In my time, I've been an elder for 5 years. In my time, they have. We want to have healthy leaders, and so I don't know for the history of the church that they always have. Everything I know is yes, they have. I imagine scenarios, right? Because I've been around the church long enough to where that's not always going to be an easy conversation.
Okay, so you have practical church experience because you're an elder in a growing church. It's a great church. It's bigger than the town that it's in, and then you have all this experience working with the future leaders in the church of tomorrow. Yeah. I know that you're not claiming to be able to predict the future, but where is the church going?
Man, that's good. I'm seeing a number of different dynamics in play right now. You look at a couple of the different leaders that are saying there's going to be a revival of youth, reacting to some of the, I'm just going to call it what it is, dystopian society around us. So I do think that if churches are poised for it, they will notice my daughter's generation reacting to what culture has been and looking for answers, looking for truth, looking for hope, And so I think the church needs to be asking again the question, how do we prepare ourselves for those young people who are once again going to come back into our churches? So I think that's going to happen. I think that they are looking for a high level of authenticity. I think that they see videos all the time, highly produced videos. It's interesting that generation prefers videos that are kind of like on their phone so that they can tell kind of that it's, that it's what it says it is. With AI, same kind of thing. Like they want to be able to see through all of those things to see authenticity. And that's hard.
Right.
It's going to be difficult for us in our ministry. So I know churches are struggling through this, even when it comes to church size and how to minister to people when it comes to, the crowds that God brings us. How do we minister to them in an authentic way that expands their discipleship, involves them, and make sure to impact them where they are.
Is interesting. I mean, every generation seems to go through this ebb and flow of excellence to authenticity.
That's so true. Yeah.
I mean, remember,
it's so hard. Absolutely.
As an Xer, and I'm guessing you're probably a little bit younger than I am. You're probably more of a millennial.
I'm 45. I'm an Xennial. I'm right.
You're on the cusp. You don't get to be part of the cool generation of being an angry, bitter Xer.
I feel that.
But it was the same thing for us. It was all about authenticity, and then the millennials come around, and it eventually became all about authenticity. And certainly with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, it's going to be what's real because everything seems so produced.
Yeah. And I think with that, the hope that's there, so often I hear people talk about young people and they're just like, the churches are dying and young people are turning away. And that's been the narrative. It's a popular narrative. But there's a real narrative of students who are saying, not only do I want to put Jesus in the middle, I want to go out and tell other people about him. And I get to be surrounded by a number of those young people and I'm super impressed by them. And so I guess if I could get something across to your audience, it would be don't look at this next generation coming up in leadership and, they're always on their phones or whatever the, curmudgeon thing that us old dads say.
Right, exactly.
But it's recognizing that there's a calling for them and they get the need for hope because their society, their culture, their friends don't have it.
Right.
And they're turning to it.
There is tremendous leadership potential with this next generation. I mean, I look at my kids and, they're working multiple jobs, some of which they've created on their own, some of it's online. They've got degrees I didn't even know existed, and I'm thinking that was not my mentality in school. Get one degree, one job, live it out, pay the bills. And there's a tremendous opportunity there.
The paths, they look different. My 14-year-old, 15-year-old son has a 3D printing business out of his bedroom, right? So he's making like $3,000 this summer doing 3D prints for people.
Of course.
And it's just a different thing. And so that's why even ministry training looks different. It's not just go get your undergrad degree or go to seminary.
Right.
It is kind of this hybrid approach that says you have to kind of figure out this custom fit to you and where you are. And that's true for us organizationally as a college. We have to adapt to that too. Our mission's the same, training students for ministry. But how we do that has to be very adaptable for this new dynamic that's in play.
Yeah. I love that. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Ozark. I had a conversation with your president a couple of years ago, and he and I go way back because he lived next door to me in college, and he has horrific stories about me. I was
going to say, he has some stories.
Yeah, we're not ever having him on the podcast.
Oh, man.
But I said to him, at the time I was living in California, I was very close to a particular Christian college, and their mantra was, or their mission statement was, for Christ and Scripture. And I said to President Proctor, I obviously believe highly in Christ and Scripture, but the mission statement of Ozark is to serve, not to be served.
Yeah.
And I said, I've never been more proud of my college because when I look at what they put out versus what this other institution put out, which was a lot of arrogance, a lot of, I know Christ better than you and Scripture better than you, versus I have come to serve, not to be served. It was just one of those moments I thought, I'm so proud of our college.
Yeah.
And I would just tell all of our listeners, even if you're not going to be in vocational ministry, be part of that DNA.
Yeah.
take classes online, watch the courses on Right Now Media, send your kids there, even if it's just for a year or just a semester. You want this part of your life because this is exactly what Christ called us to be. So thank you for what you're doing for the next generation. Thank you for sacrificing and giving of your time and effort to make that happen. And thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I want to make sure that you check out Ozark Christian College, find out a degree or a course that works for you, send your kids there for at least a year, bribe them if you have to, and make sure that you check it out on Right Now Media as well. A great way to learn more about them. Thanks for listening to the show. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I'll back up. Thanks for listening to the show. If you haven't already, hit subscribe because that is the easiest way for you to get brand new content every time it is put out. Next week, we're back with brand new stuff. Make sure you share this with a friend, hit subscribe, like it, review it, all the stuff. Thank you so much. And as always, keep it simple.